Hello there, M. Strange here with a talking drawing video, and this video is about taking your power back. Something to do with willpower, feeling empowered, just some general things, I don't know, that I thought might be useful. And the core of it, what this drawing is, ever since, like, when I was a small child, I had these experiences that I've only related them the only way I can relate them to other people, um, in regards to like what's out there for most people would be something like what people would refer to as like alien abductions. Like when I was a child, I had all these strange experiences where I would see what people described as, well, now as aliens or whatever. I just had all this weird experiences when I was a child, right? I'm not going to go into that, but when I was a teenager, I had these other weird experiences that I guess would kind of be along the same vein, but I don't want to focus on like why or like what it was. I just want to focus on what I've learned. So, what was happening is when I was maybe, I don't know, 14, 15, every night I would have these experiences where I was taken to some place, like let's say I was put on this table. Now, I'm not going to go into, I'm not trying to say, this is a real thing, oh, this is a mind control experiment by aliens or the military or both or whatever. I don't want to go into that at all. It's just about what I learned. Okay, whether it was a dream, whether it was some real thing, that's really not the point. Okay, so I had this experience where every night I was taken, so I was on this table where I was, like, I couldn't move. Like my hands and my feet were bound on this table. And so, of course, let me get a new color. Let me get a color. Let's get yellow for like stress. So, of course, if you were to wake up and be like strapped to a table, your first reaction is fear, right? We're afraid. We're terrified, and usually when we're afraid, we're not thinking, we're just reacting, right? We're going into a state of panic. So, of course, let's say, can I do layers in this thing? I don't know. Okay, well, I'll just draw over it. So, when you're afraid, like I'm afraid, I wake up, and I'm afraid, and I can't move. So then I don't even think, I'm just fearful, and then my fear causes all my energy to go here, Let's just say your energy starts here in your core, or if we want to go with the Hagakure and Samurai Spirit, somewhere here in our stomach, right? Let's just say it's somewhere here. When we feel strong emotions, strong things, we feel it somewhere around here, maybe in our throat, we get choked up. Well, let's just say normally our energy, however you want to translate that, is here, right? In our center. So when these things would happen, I would be terrified and all my energy would go to trying to resist and get out of these restraints or whatever they were in this situation. So let me get white. So I didn't have any energy in my core. I sent it all out to this, right? I'm terrified. I'm afraid. I'm just sending all my energy here every time. And this happened over and over and over and over. It seemed like every night for I don't even know how long. So it would happen, I'd wake up, I'm strapped to this thing, I can't move. I'm terrified, all my energy is going here. I'm terrified, I'm not even thinking, I'm just terrified. Fear, 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 fear. I'm not centered. I'm sending everything out, trying to attack or break out of these things that I perceive as like, this is what's stopping me, this is what's controlling me, okay? These external things. Oh, I can't move, it's this, right? So, if we go in a loop, this happens, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. I can't even count how many times. I don't even know. It seems like 50, 100 times. I don't know. It kept happening. And then over time, what happened with me, I don't know if it happens to everybody. Over time, you kind of start to get used to it. And as you get used to it, you get more comfortable with it, so you're not in such a state of panic. You can think a little bit, right? So maybe you start asking questions, because I'm not just in straight up terror, fear, where I'm just frozen, right? So maybe I can think a little bit, right? So my brain's working a little bit. And over time, what happened is that I learned just through this happening over and over and over and over and over. Again, whether it was a dream or a real thing, I'm not going into that, but I did definitely learn a very, very valuable life lesson that I've applied in everything since then. And I'll go into some other examples after that. But it kept happening. And so over time, what I started doing was that I learned, I'll just tell you what I learned, is that I learned not to send the energy out. Because when I sent the energy out, when I took it from my core, when I stopped thinking and I was just reacting and just trying to, I can't move, this thing is stopping me from moving. Okay, so over time, what I learned was you don't go into a state of fear where you're not thinking and just start focusing on it and resisting, actively resisting, putting all your energy into these things to try to break free, right? That didn't work. But I kept doing it. So over time, what I learned is that, and I actually could feel it, instead of putting my energy out and trying to fight these things and get out of them, right? I actually could feel, say all my energy was here, right? I could actually feel over time, I just relaxed and stopped fighting this thing and stopped resisting and not thinking and not being. And you could feel the energy go from these things, like leave your arms and your legs resisting and come back to your center. And I stopped resisting. I stopped being in fear and I just let go. And then eventually I actually could feel like the energy coming back to my center. And then as soon as I did that, these things would disappear. They would just vanish. And then I could get up and I was free. So through this happening time and time again, and then it would happen, right? I'd wake up and I'd be in this thing. And then I knew, no, don't resist, let go. Don't put your energy out there, like recenter yourself. And as soon as I would do that, I would recenter and then I would just be able to operate and be free. And I actually felt empowered, like I felt like powerful because I knew how to take back control of my energy. And after I learned that lesson, like after, it happened and I could do this, it stopped happening and it never happened ever again. So whether it was a dream or whatever it was, I don't know. But it was I started looking at it recently and like, wow, that was one of the best things you can learn for life is to don't go into a state of fear. Don't panic. Don't just focus on the thing that's stopping you, but recenter your energy, bring it back to your core, operate from your core. If you want to say, something to do with your heart, operate from your heart, from your brain, your core, right? So now let's look at some situations. I'll show you some other examples where this kind of applied. And, it was kind of weird because that happened maybe when I was about 15 or 16. But then you forget about it. It was just a weird thing, right? So then I went into life and let's say in my 20s, in my early 20s, I remember living in Santa Monica and not knowing anybody, not having any friends, not having any girlfriend or anything like that. And I just remember being so lonely. This is like my lonely, sad person, right? I was like so lonely and I felt so sorry for myself. Oh, I'm so lonely. All right. And I'm not making fun of people that are lonely out there. I'm just, making fun of myself, whatever. And like, I remember, let's say, going to the beach, right? I still remember on Venice Beach, I was out there by myself, right? On Venice Beach, just out in the ocean, being so lonely and like, I wish I had a girlfriend or someone just to spend this time with me. And I'm like, again, I'm not mocking those feelings because those are real feelings. This is what I felt at the time, right? So I was super lonely and I was just, and I would see other people together, like these are people together, right? And when I would see those other people together, these are people. When I would see people together and happy or whatever, just being together, it made me even sadder and lonelier, right? Ah! And that's where I was at the time. Okay. So if we look at this, I'm going to give you another example of something else, but this was me focusing on something outside of myself. So instead of those bounds on my arms and legs, or whatever you want to call them, those restraints, now I'm seeing the restraints in my life, like this is a big restraint. I don't have this. I wanted this. I don't have it. So I just focused on it. I don't have it. So instead of being afraid, maybe it was afraid of just being alone, but just feeling sad and lonely and allowing that feeling of misery and just fixating on what I didn't have, right? So instead of centering myself here and just being okay and comfortable, I could still feel lonely, but I was just so focused on what I didn't have. So again, I was sending my energy out, right? This thing. So like, here, I'll give you one more example of this, just to show you. So let's say I'm this lonely person, and I remember being in a coffee shop, and this is like a coffee shop, right? And this is me in a coffee shop. And I remember one time, again, I was like in my probably early 20s. This is when I was still lonely. This lonely person. And I remember this one time, there was these two attractive girls sitting at this table, right? And I was like, in my head, I'm so lonely. And I forget they were like reading some book or something. Maybe it was a comic book. I don't know. So then I'm just lonely, desperate person, right? And that's where I'm operating from, because I'm sending my energy out. Oh, I'm lonely. Can you help me? I'm lonely. Will you love me? I'm lonely. I need to be with someone, right? I'm like sending my energy all over the place. And I remember, like, now it's one of these things you look back to and like cringe, because I remember just being like, hey, is that the comic blah, 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 whatever it was? And they were like, yeah. And then just looking at them and not knowing what to say, but just being like creepy, like looking at them like, yeah, that comic, just being like desperate and creepy, right? And I still remember they like left and like walked away and were looking at me like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? But it's because I was so desperate, and I was sending my energy out. I want this. I want a girlfriend. I'm lonely. Right? And so by doing this, by pushing, all this energy at these people and things, what I was actually doing was I was pushing what I wanted away from me. Because by being that way, by projecting all this stuff, I'm desperate, I'm lonely. People pick up on that, and no one really wants to be around those people. So it pushed them away. So the thing I really wanted, I was actually pushing it away by focusing all this energy on it, right? I'm lonely. So you've probably heard it before. People talk about like creating their own hell, or, creating your own problems, or creating the thing you're afraid of. So in that situation, let's just say with the energy thing, like, I wanted so much to be loved or to be with someone. So, I wanted so much to have love, or whatever it was, love, sex, affection, whatever, companionship, all those things, right? At the time. So I was so fixated on it, I was like pushing at it. So if we think of like the restraints again, so like here's the restraints. I don't have this, I want it. And so all my energy was going to the restraint, pushing on it. So then it actually caused this thing to push farther away from me, because I was afraid of being alone, but then I was so fucking desperate, whatever, and just focusing so much on it, I was pushing it away. So I was making myself more alone, right? You're seeing that, how you can do that, So what I eventually learned, and what I ended up applying was, then maybe I did it subconsciously at the time because I didn't really think about it. But so let's say, that thing I learned from those experiences when I was a teenager about recentering. So then eventually what I did is that I kind of just stopped caring. Like there was this thing over here, and I stopped. Not that I stopped caring, but I stopped pushing. I stopped fixating on it. I stopped looking at people and being like, I'm so lonely. They're together. Oh, a hot girl. And I wish could touch her, or whatever it was. I know that sounds creepy, but we've all been creepers at some time probably. So, so I was pushing this thing away. So then I stopped doing that. So then I just, cut that off. Right. And that's around, I was still like making animation, making movies and stuff, but this is supposed to be like a movie slate. Even though there's no film anymore, no one knows what that is. But this is a really bad slate. So this is a movie thing. So then I stopped putting all my energy here, right? And just was like, I love animation. I love music. This is supposed to say music. I love movies. So I kind of recentered, right? I went back here and I was like, well, I'm not with a person. I'm still lonely, but I'm going to recenter. I'm going to stop pushing out on this thing I don't have. And I'm going to instead focus on these things I do have or I can do, right? So I recentered and I started making these things and I stopped focusing on what I didn't have, right? So I recentered. I brought my energy back. And then through that, I stopped being like that needy, creepy person. And I was just kind of like, I guess I'm okay with being alone. I like making these movies and stuff. And then in a short while, like through making, I mean, that makes me look like I'm angry. I'm not angry. Like through doing my movie stuff, I had a lot of different actresses I worked with when I was down in Santa Monica, different places. And a lot of them were actually like attractive young women, but I didn't care. I wasn't like, oh my God, they're attractive young women. Like, oh, will they love me? Like, I let go of that and I didn't care. And like, it would have really surprised my former self because my former self would have been, oh, well, you love me. But I honestly didn't care. I was just like, I like movies. I like animation. That's what I'm going to do. I centered myself, right? And then eventually, years later, I was comfortable and centered in myself, and I'm happily married now for 5 years, but I was together, involved with my wife for 5 years before that, so been involved with her for 10 years. So my thing that I wanted to share with you really was that lesson of not focusing on the thing that you think is resisting you. Like in the situation where I had whatever they felt like physical restraints on me, whether it's like, okay, you have physical restraints or there's something you want like love, or I don't know, let me try to draw a trophy. Can I draw a trophy? Like if you want recognition, this is going to be like recognition. There's a trophy. Let's put angel wings on it. Okay. Like, so let's write trophy. Trophy. Okay. Love. And the trophy can be recognition. I'll put recog, right? These are maybe just some common things. I'm sure, something too is that people want money. Oh, actually, I can go into the money thing too. So this is money and just how this kind of principle works with money. So, yeah. So instead of having us focus our energy, attention on this restraint, right? This thing that's stopping me, or this thing that I want. Oh, I want this. Like, you're not going to, obviously, if you're restrained like this, unless you can break out of them, like putting all your energy into trying to break out of them. In my situation, it didn't work, didn't do anything. If you're super lonely and desperate and just projecting that everywhere and being all like desperate and lonely and needy with people, you're probably not going to get this either. If you're just like, I want recognition, and just so focusing on getting recognition and not actually doing the things or getting on the long path it takes to actually get this recognition, you'll never get this either. So I should have crossed this out. And it's the same thing with money. Like, let's just say we're looking at investing and things like that. Like, if you're just so focused on, I need money, and operating out of that state of fear where you're not really thinking, you're just fear, you'll never have this either. So let's just go into like this, because I looked at love. I guess I'll look at recognition too. So let's do 2 more examples, and just to make sure we get this point across here. So here's a person again. I'll do a really crappy person with no arms and legs. And then here's our trophy. Can I redraw my crap trophy? No, I can't. So this is a trophy. I'm just going to write trophy because you can't tell what it is. Okay. So let's say I wanted to get recognition for being a filmmaker, right? Which I eventually did. I was lucky enough to do that and fulfill a dream of mine. Okay, so here's the trophy. This is recognition. And then let's write something like time times 100. Like there's a lot of time, right? And there's effort, and there's study, right? So time, effort, study, and yeah, effort is work, okay? So if you were just so focused on, I don't have a trophy, right? We could look at that as one of those restraints that was on my arms or legs from that lesson. And if I took all my energy and was just so focused on, I want recognition, I want recognition, I want recognition, I'm never going to have recognition because you're not going to get recognition for wanting to have recognition. I mean, it's kind of twisted in the world of social media because, you know, you can like set yourself on fire and film it or kill somebody or whatever and get recognition, like get a bunch of people to look at it. But I don't think that's not the kind of recognition I'm talking about here. And probably if we were to choose, most people don't want that. Like some people just want recognition no matter what, but that's really unhealthy and bad for people and society as a whole. So let's just say, yeah, I wanted recognition for filmmaking or animation. So if I would have just put all my time and energy into this, I would never get it. So instead, what you need to do is recenter yourself and focus on like, okay, I want recognition for filmmaking. All right, let me recenter, stop being so fearful about not having this thing, and instead, let me put the time in. Let me focus on putting the work or the effort in. Let me study to be better. And if you iterate on this, if you just do this over and over and over and forget about this, eventually, what happened with me, like when I first started, I couldn't call myself an animator. Like I suck so bad, like I didn't want to call myself that. I felt fake, you know, the imposter thing, whatever, because I was an imposter. I didn't know, right? And so I wanted to be an animator and I wanted to get recognition for being an animator or making animation or movie, right? So what I did, I just went down this path and just put the time, the work, and the study in for a really long time. I even forgot about this, right? Took me a long time. I eventually finished the movie, and then I was like, oh, I'm done now. Now I can kind of think about this again because I did this and I have something to show for it. So let me send it to this film festival or whatever it is you're doing. And then eventually I did get this, but I had to forget. I had to forget about this part. And that brings me to another example of mine I'd like to show you that I'm sure I've done somewhere else on this channel. But let's say we're walking on a long path, okay? And we have a goal. And here is a sun, and let's see. Our goal is this golden tower that's like 1,000,000 miles away, right? And what can we put at the top of the golden tower? Let's put like a smiley face, okay? So this is our ultimate goal, right? Like way out here. Let's call this the horizon. It's supposed to be a horizon. Hopefully it looks like one, kind of. Let's draw some clouds. Okay. So, and now let's make a sign, okay? So this is our destination, right? So let's make a sign. And let's just say our goal is 1,000,000 miles away. Oops. Okay, or I'll do kilometers, right? We'll do it more universal. Okay, so our goal is 1,000,000 kilometers, right? And now we're walking down this path. This is us walking down this path, okay? So as you're walking down this path to your goal, so this is you just starting today. You have no experience and you want to be a good programmer. You've never written a paragraph and you want to write a novel. You are super out of shape and you want to be able to run a mile in less than 5 minutes and do 10 pull-ups or something, right? Like it's a long path to get there. There's a lot of things in life, most of the things that are worth it, you know, these lofty goals, whatever you just want to do. You want to record your first musical album, but you don't know how to play anything, you know, you have no experience. It's a long path, right? So imagine walking down this long path. And in my experience, this is what foils a lot of people. So we can look anywhere on this path, right? So what people tend to do is let's say it takes 10 million steps or walking to this goal, right? They'll look at the goal while they're walking. So this is like I was showing you, you're staring at the recognition instead of focusing on the work, right? So we're looking at the thing that we want from what we're doing. Okay, so you're walking down this path. Now, when you're walking, if you stare out at the horizon, at your goal that's 1,000,000 miles away, even if you were to walk like 10,000 steps, it would look like you didn't move at all. It looks like you're not even going anywhere at all, which can kill your morale, can kill your enthusiasm, because you're like, man, I've already been doing this for a month and look how far I am, right? So this is the M. Strange secret. This is my secret that I've used to finish 3 animated feature films, single-handedly made by myself, like something no one else still has done in the world as far as I know, and especially at the level of quality that I was doing it. And all the other things I've done, you don't have to like it, but you can't argue with the achievements I've done as a single person. And I keep making stuff, and you can just, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. But anyway, so this is my secret. So my secret is don't look at your goal. Forget your goal, right? So let's do a new POV. Because when you look out at the horizon, you see nothing, okay? So here's our path. What you want to look at is your feet, okay? So this is a foot. I know it's really bad. This is supposed to be like looking down at your feet. These are our feet, right? And now if you look at your feet instead, you're going to see the progress that every footstep is making. So it's going to feel like you're making progress, and you are. So the goal is to instead look down at your feet. What's looking down at your feet? Say you're animating a movie like I was. Looking down at your feet is a single shot finished, right? A single shot finished. If you're writing a novel, 1 page done. You know, you finish the page. If you're writing music, I don't know, 10 seconds or however you would measure your music, finished, right? You get it. Like, if you're making a game, I finished outlining the prototype, right? That's looking at your feet, because if you look down, you are making progress. So you think about, if you're looking down at your feet and you do those 10,000 steps, you're like, man, I've done, I don't know, 100 shots, I've done 10 pages, I've done, 2 minutes, right? And this is the secret. So I was looking out at my feet the whole time. I forgot about being an animator or getting recognition or anything. Instead, I just focused on these really, really small achievements, right? Because being good at anything or being great at anything or getting to a certain level that you want to get at, you have to do a shitload of these super small things. And people tend to forget about the small things and they stop celebrating them. But you need to, every day when you're done, you made these little small things, you got them finished. You should be proud of yourself and happy. Look down at your feet, see that you're moving, right? And so this is what happens when you do this. You just focus on this. You, instead of like wanting that big giant burst of like instant gratification, you're getting little tiny drops every day of gratification, small drops. So not huge instant, but it's like time release. It's a slow drip of gratification, which is much healthier too and sustainable. And before you know it, you'll be focusing on these small steps and not even thinking about your goal. And then you'll look up, and then right in front of you, you'll be at that place because you focused on your feet and you even forgot about this goal. And before you know it, you'll be finished with your movie. You'll be finished with your album. You'll be finished with your game. You'll be in the relationship with the person that you wanted to. You'll have that thing. But if you instead focus on what you don't have, if you focus on the resistance, if you just focus on having the goal instantly, you'll never get there. You need to focus on the steps. So look down at your feet as you're moving, and you will see the progress that you're making every day if you continue to work on it. And that's encouraging. Looking out at the horizon from the start and continuing to do it, you won't see any progress, which is demotivating. It won't motivate you. So instead, Forget about this. If you're lonely, if you're alone, stop focusing on like the people that you want to be with. Stop looking at their fucking Facebooks and like their lives are so happy. You know, don't look at the people that you think you want to be like. Think about the person that you want to be and how do you get there? So for instance, for me, I wanted to be an animator. I thought it'd be so awesome if I could go places and be like, yes, I'm an animator. So I got all the books, I got all the videos, tutorials. I started animating. I started making stuff. I forgot about all the things I wanted to be, and then one day I looked up and I was that person. It was the same thing with game development. When I started out, I didn't focus on like, I suck at games, I don't know how to program. No, I put my head down. I started doing tutorials, started reading, read the books, made all these little games. And then now, 4 years later, I look up and I'm like, wow, I can program pretty good. I'm a game developer. I know how to make games. So let me go forward and maybe I'll reach my goal, my other goal. So my first goal was just being competent, and now my other goal is like getting recognition for making a game, something like that. So starting with my experience from whatever those things were, which when they happened when I was a teenager was a fucking nightmare, because it was like this other world and there were other beings there that didn't look like humans that were like locking me up into those restraints and looking at me and terrorizing me. So at the time, I didn't appreciate it. But now I look back and I was like, wow, that was like the best life lesson I could ever have, because it's helped me in so many different ways. So that's my advice to you. So if you didn't have to go through the thing where these non-human entities in a dream or reality or whatever, where why that was done to me or why my brain did it to me in a dream, I don't know, but I'm extremely thankful. So that's my tip to you today from Men About Strange. So if you're on a long journey, whether it is to achieve something, to be a certain person you want to be, or to have something, just focus on your feet. Look down at your feet, see the small progress you're making. Oh, one additional thing I forgot to do. I wanted to say something about investing or money. So let's just say something I learned, and something to do with fear. So let's think about investing or like making money. So if you start out, or if you're not like born rich or whatever, you don't have a lot of money, like money's a big deal to you, right? And money is something that people who, like I said, aren't born into it, and don't just automatically have a lot of it, or someone will just give you a bunch for nothing. We have a lot of fear around it. Oh my God, I don't want to lose my money. Oh, and like desperation, right? Where in a way, we're like I was when I was lonely and desperate and needy, looking at those women like, oh my God, these women. And you start like coveting things and like, you know, being really weird, fearful. And what I learned for like investing, if you don't risk money, you can never make money. So let's just say there's some investment opportunity and I want to throw money into it, right? And, you know, if I invest one of these dollars, you know, and it ends up giving me dollars times 3, right? Like times 3, like that's awesome, right? But when I start out, if let's say I have $20, right? Let's say I have 20 of these. And I see something that I think is a good investment. I've done my homework. I know that it's going to do well, or I think, you know, no one knows, but I have an inkling, like I'm really confident in it. But then I'm totally fear-based because I'm like, oh my God, I'll never have money. And then I just throw $1 into it, right? And I get back 3 and I'm like, okay, I got 3. But in investing stuff, like you have to risk losing money in order to make money. If you're fearful, you'll really never make any. Like big gains or something can actually change your life. So it's like, you got to be like, oh, I really believe in this thing. Okay, I'm going to do 5, right? Still, that's not like doing everything or even half. But then, you know, you're going to get back 15 and maybe 15 changes your life. So it's just something, it's kind of the same application, you know, if you have these restraints around money where you're like, you know, and super fearful, you'll probably never have it because you're not going to take the risks that are necessary to actually get it. So that's just one other thing that lesson I learned from aliens or whatever have helped and maybe can help you. So anyway, this video is long enough. I hope to help someone out there. If you want more stuff like this, let me know. And if you have certain topics or things you want me to discuss, just let me know and I'll do my best to try to make them. Because, yeah. that's what we're here for as humans, right? And we have these tools or things like YouTube that we can use to try to share our experience with the people, and might be helpful, might be a horrible warning. You know, they say if you can't be a good example, then you're a horrible warning, whatever. But anyway, I'm just here sharing my experience. Hopefully it helps somebody out there. And until next time, I'm Dot String saying goodbye.